Ladies and gentlemen, critter enthusiasts and eco enthusiasts, welcome back to another thrilling episode of Eric Likes Animals. I'm your ever excited host, Eric Mahan, and today we're going to be diving into the wild world of environmental news and, of course, the creatures that make this planet their home. Whether you're a first time explorer or a seasonal listener, I am thrilled to have you along for this journey. So, why don't we buckle on up and dive right into some environmental news? First up, reported by Live Science, pangolin courtship ritual and birth of a pangopup captured in incredibly rare footage. All right, side note, I love pangolins, and yeah, no, this is really rare footage, so I'm really excited to be talking about this one. And in this article, it goes on to talk about it. So it says, in a rare and captivating footage captured for the new PBS series Big Little Journeys, the nocturnal courtship ritual of a Taiwanese pangolin unfolds. The video showcases a female leading a male through the night until the moment of mating. The pair, adorned with tough and overlapping scales, engage in a delicate dance to find a suitable position for mating. The filmmakers emphasized that pangolins, sensitive to sound and smell, meant that they had to exercise extreme patience during the filming process in the wild. The pangolin's remarkable defense mechanism, curling into a ball for hours, underscores their vulnerability to poachers. With 8 pangolin species spanning from Africa to Asia, including critically endangered ones like the Sudan, Philippine, and Chinese pangolins. The footage sheds light on their fascinating yet threatened world of these unique creatures never before truly seen. Pangolins themselves face a grave threat as one of the world's most trafficked mammals, with an estimated 195,000 being killed annually for their scales, which are sought after in traditional medicine in Chinese and other countries around the world. However, in 2020, China elevated the protection status of the Chinese pangolin to the level of the giant panda, aiming to safeguard this endangered species and thus also hoping to reduce other species of pangolins getting caught up with trafficking as well. Notably, of many pangolin territories, the country of Taiwan stands out as a sanctuary for pangolins, as robust legislation and protections have eradicated poaching threats. This unique circumstance presented an unprecedented opportunity for filmmakers working on the PBS series Big Little Journeys to document the courtship of a pair of Taiwanese pangolins. The team, collaborating with zoologist Nick Ching-man Soon, spent extensive hours patiently observing the pangolins' behavior, leveraging camera traps and GPS tags. It took a long time and a lot of skills to finally get the clip of the penguin's courtship, and even more exciting, that 7 months later, the filmmakers captured the female emerging from a burrow with her new pango pup clinging to her scaly tail, providing valuable insights into the pangolin behavior, including courtship and interactions with their offspring. Next up, reported by Science News, some honeybees in Italy regularly steal pollen off the back of bumblebees. New observations shed light on what drives honeybees to lives of larceny. And in this article, it talks about how honeybees, known for relying on plant pollen as a protein rich food source, have been observed engaging in a surprising behavior, stealing pollen from other bees, including bumblebees. While pollen theft has been documented in the United States previously, researchers in Italy have now extensively recorded honeybee snatching pollen off the backs of bumblebees. The observations were published recently and provided one of the most comprehensive accounts of bee on bee crime to date. During a summer expedition in 2019 in northern Italy, independent naturalists based in Milan captured video footage of what initially seemed like honeybees attempting to displace bumblebees from the flowers of a woody thistle. Upon closer inspection, the video revealed that this behavior was not mere competitive harassment, but a full fledged act of robbery. The red tailed bumblebees were observed foraging for nectar and pollen, with pollen grains sticking to their hairy bodies. A perfect victim for the honeybees, who were witnessed shamelessly stealing their pollen directly from the bodies of the bumblebees. The thieves exhibited a preference for male bumblebees, who seemed less bothered by this pilfering, although even females did not really react aggressively to it. This behavior aligns with honeybees' reputation as pollen pigs, says a number of biologists. To gauge the prevalence of this pollen theft, researchers revisited the site multiple times over 3 years and observed two additional sites about 25 kilometers away. Interestingly, honeybees at the other locations did not engage in stealing from bumblebees, while those at the initial site continued their lives of crime persistently. The study suggests that honeybees may resort to theft in areas where acquiring pollen directly from flowers is challenging, especially when surrounded by numerous other bees. Pollen stealing by honeybees had previously been documented only in North America, but the discovery of the behavior in Italy suggests a potentially global behavior. Researchers are keen to explore whether pollen theft has any adverse effects on bumblebees or the flowers they pollinate, and additionally, there is curiosity about whether other bee species exhibit similar pollen stealing behaviors. Russell's, one of the researchers' last notes were that in hives, bumblebees have also been observed nibbling on each other's pollen baskets as well. Then, finally, reported by the NPR, no turning back. The largest dam removal in U.S. history begins. And the article goes on to talk about how the largest dam removal in the U.S. history has reached a crucial phase as dammed reservoirs of the Klamath River are being lowered. The initial steps involving opening the gate on a 16-foot wide bypass tunnel at the base of the Iron Gate Dam, the lowest dam slated for removal. The gate was gradually opened from a crack to 36 inches, allowing water to flow through. Amy Cordalis, an attorney and member of the Yurok tribe who played a key role in advocating for dam removal, expressed the historical and life-changing significance of this event. The control breach marks a milestone in the effort to remove 3 hydroelectric dams as part of the Lower Klamath Project in Northern California and Southern Oregon. The drawdown of Iron Gate and 2 other reservoirs is a prelude to the removal of the dams, offering hope for the river's future and the preservation of salmon populations. The dams on the river have served as barriers, impeding the passage of salmon, steelhead, and Pacific lamprey, contributing to habitat degradation and a decline in water quality. Once the third largest salmon producer on the West Coast, the Klamath River has witnessed a significant reduction in coho and Chinook salmon runs since the construction of the dams. The removal of these barriers is crucial steps in restoring the river's ecosystem. Tribal activists advocating for the removal of the 4 Klamath River's dams since the late 1990s faced initial skepticism, but remain committed to this cause. Leif Hillman, an elder of the Yurok tribe and a campaign initiator, emphasized the intergenerational struggle to achieve dam removal. The urgency increased following a substantial Chinook salmon die-off in 2002, leading to heightened activism. The loss of thousands of fish was not only a setback for recreational fishing, but also profound cultural loss, as expressed by Brooke Thompson, a Yurok tribe member, highlighting the deep connection with relatives that were served with the decline of salmon populations. The battle to preserve the salmon of the Klamath River had profoundly influenced individuals like Brooke Thompson, who participated in the protest as a child and is now pursuing a PhD focused on integrating native knowledge into policy. For Thompson, the river and its fish are integral to the Yurok spiritually, way of life, ceremonies, and identity. While activists celebrate the restoration of the river, there is uncertainty for the residents near the dams, particularly in Copco Lake, California. The removal of their namesake's lake raises concerns about the community centerpiece and the impact on property values and fire safety in a high risk region. The lake served as a vital resource for firefighting, and without it, the community faces increased exposure to wildfires. Similar dam removal projects on the Penobscot River in Maine and the Elwha River in Washington have demonstrated rapidly recover for rivers and their fishes. The success of the Klamath River restoration is expanded to guide future dam removal efforts. The focus is now shifting to the Lower Snake River in Washington, where four dams are being considered for removal. Ownership and the usage of the dams, such as for irrigation and barge traffic, complicate the political landscape, and the success of the Klamath River project has increased optimism for the action on Snake River. In the coming weeks, water will steadily flow through the bypass tunnel at an average rate of 2,200 cubic feet per second, gradually lowering the Iron Gate Reservoir between 2 and 4 feet per day. Subsequently, the upper dams J.C. Boyle and Copco 1 are scheduled to be breached later this month. By June, the Klamath River is expected to resume flowing within its historical channels, marking the commencement of the dismantling process for the dams. While advocates emphasize that dam removal alone won't fully restore the Klamath River salmon runs, it is a crucial step. The removal of these barriers will open up significant stretches of habitat for coho and Chinook salmon. Fish biologists at the NOAA Fisheries highlight that according to modeling, up to 80% more Chinook salmon could return to the basin within about 30 years post dam removal. Ocean harvest could also see a substantial increase of up to 46%. The success, however, hinges on restoring vital tributaries, including those in the upper Klamath Basin, compromised by diking and drainage of wetlands. By restoring these tributaries, the basin gains resilience against climate change and buffers against multi year droughts. Amy Cordelis, a Yurok tribe member, acknowledges that there is more work ahead, but expresses anticipation for one single personal goal she has: fishing, she says. I want to go fishing. And that is it for your environmental news. Now, on today's creature feature, I got one that I just think is a superstar, and I hope you do too, because today we're going to be chatting about the star-nosed mole. Now, the star-nosed mole hails from eastern North America, covering the northeastern United States and southeast Canada. Its habitat stretches from the Atlantic Ocean to North Dakota and southward to Virginia and Ohio, and along the Atlantic coast to Georgia, including the Appalachian Mountains and a little bit into Canada. These moles are adaptive to various environments, but thrive mostly in moist soil conditions. They typically inhabit areas with poor drainage like conifer and deciduous forests that normally include wet meadows, clearings, marshes, and peatlands. You can also find them along streams, banks, lakes, and ponds, where they venture in search for food. Interestingly, despite their preference for wet areas, it has been noted that they have been spotted in dry meadows as far as 400 meters or 0.25 miles away from water sources. But now onto the stats. Star-nosed moles typically weigh between 35 to 75 grams, which is approximately 1.23 to 2.64 ounces. And in terms of their length, they are quite small and only measure between 175 to 205 millimeters, which is roughly 6.89 to about 8.07 inches. And then finally, these moles generally have a lifespan of about 3 to 4 years under normal wild conditions. As for what these guys look like, much like other mole species, they possess a sturdy, round, cylindrical body structure with robust forelimbs, broad feet, and sizable claws. Their fur is characterized by short, dense, and coarse hair compared to other moles, because it's actually fairly waterproof. But we'll get to that in a little bit. The coloration of their fur ranges from dark brown to black on their back, transitioning to a lighter brown underneath. During winter months, it is noted a interesting thing occurs where the mole's tails can swell to about 3 to 4 times its normal diameter. This is actually a survival technique for these moles. Their tails act like fat storage for the moles, helping them in times of low food amounts during harsh winter months. But that's not all that helps them during those harsh winter months. Star-nosed moles employ a unique survival strategy distinct from their eastern mole counterparts. Unlike eastern moles, star-nosed moles dig deeper tunnels to seek refuge from the cold. These tunnels typically extend deeper underground, with only a few of them reaching close to the surface. They accomplish this amazing, miraculous feat with their remarkable feet. Equipped with remarkable digging abilities, star-nosed moles utilize their broad feet to carve out shallow tunnels, some reaching lengths up to of 100 feet, which aids in foraging through marshes and swamps. Normally building these tunnels around logs and rocks and use grasses for soft materials to line their nest. Their digging prowess is exceptional, and their feet adorned with claws are perfectly suited for moving soil quickly. Additionally, they rely on these specialized feet to construct their underground nests, further enhancing their ability to withstand the challenges of winter. They also dig these deeper holes not just because of winters, but to get away from potential predators, which include but are not limited to owls, hawks, foxes, skunks, martens, mink, bullfrog, and even largemouth bass. And at this point, you may be thinking to yourself, well, how the heck are these moles getting eaten by fish? Because as we think of moles, most of us are thinking of animals living in holes in ground. And the star-nosed moles, of course, do live underground. They feel very comfortable there, but they also feel very comfortable in the water. Many of these moles will actually have tunnels that give them an underground secret underwater pathway, keeping their activities secret to other potential predators living nearby. The star-nosed moles will use those same big feet and tail to swim through the water on the prowl for snacks, hence why they want to live so close to different waterways. Their diet can include a variety of aquatic invertebrates from insects, worms, and even leeches. How they find these little critters is actually one of the most impressive things about them, since, like many moles, they are virtually blind. But when you live underground as much as they do, eyes just kind of get in the way of things. I mean, you're going to be getting dirt in it all the time. But don't worry, they got a secret weapon their nose, which, as you guessed from the name, their nose is actually in the shape of a star. The star shaped nose of the star nosed mole serves as a remarkable purpose beyond just smelling. It's actually primarily a touch organ, aiding in navigating and hunting in darkness. When hunting, the mole rapidly boops its star nose against the ground, capable of touching up to 12 different spots with a single second. That tiny finger like array of a star are in constant motion, delicately touching and feeling the surrounding areas, allowing the mole to sense its environment with exceptional sensitivity. In fact, the star is considered the most sensitive touch organ among all mammals. It houses over 100,000 nerve fibers, approximately 5 times more touch fibers than a human hand, all densely packed in a structure smaller than your fingertip. These sensory receptors, famously known as the Elmer's organ, after the scientists who first observed them, play a crucial role in detecting seismic wave vibrations from the mole's surrounding. Remarkably, these abilities have also been indicated in detecting earthquakes. Indeed, the star-nosed moles utilize these unique star-shaped appendages more like we would our eyes as sensory organs to comprehend the environment around us. Research indicates that their brains are organized around signal receivers from their star appendages, similar to how the human brain processes visual information from our eyes. And in their world, it's like a superpower, giving them quick information as they constantly move through their tunnels, quickly identifying if it's food and eating it down like a squishy worm within a quarter of a second, which makes them one of the fastest eaters of any mammal, even beating me when I have a plate of wings. But it's not because they have no manners, it's because they have such a high metabolism, unlike me. Metabolism they need to almost constantly be eating to hold up. It doesn't have time to, well, take its time with eating. It needs to choke it back and find more food. However, with a ravenous hunger like this, the land just can't provide enough food alone. Hence why they also need to swim through the water. And if you think their noses were amazing on land, wait till you hear what they do in the water. They will actually blow a bubble with their nose, pushing it towards different items. Then they will suck that bubble back into their nose, using it to smell underwater. And of course, while they're blowing bubbles, they are also using those star appendages to feel around, helping identify both predators and prey in the depths of their watery world. Now, let's go on to the star-nosed love life. Star-nosed moles exhibit a monogamous behavior during each breeding season, which normally means a male and female form a pair as early as autumn, remaining together through the mating season. But once that's over, they kind of go their separate ways and find maybe somebody new next year. Now, the mating season normally occurs from March to April. However, the specific methods by which they find or attract mates remain largely unknown. I know, shocking, we don't know more about this creature that lives underground most of its life. Breeding typically occurs from mid March, however, through April, and we do know that the gestation period lasts about approximately 45 days. Young are born between late April and mid June. Female moles typically produce one litter per year, consisting of about anywhere from 2 to 7 offspring, with 5 being the average litter size. In cases where a female's initial reproductive attempts fails, she can actually mate again and potentially produce a litter as late as July. At birth, the offspring are hairless, with closed eyes and ears, and their star-shaped node tentacles are folded back along their snout so it doesn't get in the way. Within about 2 weeks, the eyes, the ears, and the star become functional. The young become independent at 30 days old and reach sexual maturity at 10 months of age. And now that you are obviously in love with these guys, you might be getting a little worried about our next part, which is how are they doing from a conservation perspective? But don't worry. The IUNC Red List has them listed as least concern population trend stable. So you can take a sigh of relief that these amazing superstars are doing so well. But like always, we will dive into potential issues that may arise from these creatures just to be aware, because unfortunately, in this natural world, with things changing so quickly, especially since their natural territory is in one of the most heavily populated spots in North America, the Northeast, yeah, it can change fairly quick. Now, while the star-nosed mole thrives in a range of habitats, they are pretty particularly flourishing in wetlands, which serves as major hotspots for their population. And yet, since these moles may be doing good, wetlands around the world, and especially in the United States where they originate, face significant challenges. Wetlands, which are vital ecosystems teeming with biodiversity, are increasingly under threat from a variety of things, not limited to, but including roads. Construction of roads and highways often result in the fragmentation and destruction of wetlands. The infrastructure disrupts natural water flow patterns and can isolate wetland areas, leading to habitat loss and decreased biodiversity. Dikes and levees. The construction of dikes and levees for flood control purposes can alter natural hydrological processes in wetlands. While these structures may protect human settlements from flooding, they can also disrupt the natural cycles that many wetland species rely on for breeding, feeding, and migration. And depositing fill. Fill materials such as soil, sand, or gravel is often deposited in wetlands for land reclamation and development projects. This practice alters the topographically and hydrology of the wetland areas, leading to habitat loss and degradation, mainly due to increased potential water properties for house development. And all this is done mainly to increase the potential water properties that they can sell for house development, but then they wonder why their houses flood all the time. And then, speaking of flooding, sea level rise. As global sea levels rise due to climate change, coastal wetlands are particularly vulnerable to erosion. Saltwater intrusion can degrade freshwater wetland habitats, threatening the survival of plant and animal species adapted to specific environmental conditions. Seems weird, I know, talking about how more water would be bad, but rising level changes can. And wetlands took forever to be created in those very specific spots. And the rising levels of water do not simply push wetlands more inland, but just kind of has the sea keep coming in. It kills the wetland and the wetland can't get pushed back. So it just ends up dying, kind of stuck behind a rock or a hard place or a river and an ocean. So what can we do? Sea level rising. It's just another one of the many global warming issues. So, doing things like reducing your carbon footprint at home, like decrease your electricity use, water use, not use single use plastic, and so on, can help with this. When it comes to development, greener practices, instead of drastically changing the environment, building with nature. You may not fit as many houses, but hey, your views will be a heck of a lot cooler with all those cool animals around you. And plus, wetlands are a powerhouse in preventing floodings, so all those new houses would stop constantly getting flooded all the time. Then the development of depositing, filling, aka dumping soil on the wetlands for development would also cease there as well. Road construction, directing roads with the factor of environment may not give you a straight shot of a road from one destination to another, but and may add a couple minutes. But rerouting around more fragile environments like wetlands and marshes will help save these powerhouse environments. Also, doing things like making higher roads so that it's not like they're cutting right through the wetland, but actually trying to build over it will stop the block of water flow, and it also lets animals easily pass underneath the road and keeps the kind of drainage filters going. Also, speaking of drainage filter system, having filters on the road drainage systems is also really good. It's already there, it's already invented, where it literally just kind of catches the water that comes off of the roads from rain and filters out the oil and other junk that gets dropped on our roads constantly so that that stuff doesn't get washed into the wetlands but simply gets cleaned up by humans first. Then finally, for the dikes and levees, it's all about wetland restoration, which is not just for restoring the areas of dikes and levees, but agricultural, older development areas, and so on. Scientists are all indicating that there's five important definitions and ways to track and restore wetlands. First up, establishment. This involves creating a wetland in an area where one did not previously exist. It entails constructing wetland features, establishing the natural hydrological and ecological conditions to support wetland vegetation and wildlife. That's one way. Not really the best way, but it's one way. Another one, reestablishment. Reestablishment focuses on returning a former wetland to its natural historical state. Often these wetlands have been drained or altered for agricultural and other land use. Restoration efforts aim to reserve these modifications and recreate the original wetland conditions, aka if there's dams, get rid of them and plant a lot of native wetland plants and just kind of re-allow the wetland to, well, be a wetland. Enhancement. Enhancement involves improving one or more functions of an existing wetland to enhance its ecological value, especially if it is technically still a wetland, but maybe due to human involvement, trash, or whatever, it's not really the healthiest one. Now, some ways to do this also is that it may include activities such as modifying water levels or vegetation management to go a little more extreme. This can benefit specific species or ecosystem processes. For example, if there's a very vulnerable plant that got knocked out of a wetland, but there's still a wetland there, kind of reintegrating that species of plant can then bring back a lot of animals that that plant, well, helped them. Creating modified water levels, most wetlands go through a constant change of higher and lower water levels throughout the year. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. That a lot of times kind of triggers breeding for a lot of animals and plants there. So making sure or helping that along will really make sure that the wetlands are stronger than ever. And then rehabilitation aims to restore the historical functions of a degraded wetland. This may involve addressing issues such as invasive species, encroachment, habitat degradation, or impaired hydrological processes to return the wetland to a more natural and functional state. Protection. Protection involves acquiring land or conservation estimates to safeguard existing wetland habitats from further development or degradation. This ensures that wetlands remain intact and undisturbed, providing long term benefits of biodiversity and ecosystem services. So, that one is kind of straightforward. Basically, if there's a really good wetland, conservationists and scientists are trying to buy it up. That way, developers don't get to it first. And by doing all these things, I know it's a lot, but it's so important. After all, wetlands are basically one of those filter ecosystems that keeps our planet greener, healthier, and pretty cool to live in. And besides all that, doing all these things will also make sure that our little superstar, the star-nosed mole, stays around for years to come. And that's our show. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the star-nosed mole. As always, check me out on my Facebook, X, aka Twitter, TikTok, and if you ever want to email me, you can email me at ericlikesanimals@gmail.com. Links are down in the footer below. And of course, once again, thank you so much for joining me on another wild adventure with Eric Likes Animals. This is Eric signing off, reminding you that every creature has a story, and sometimes the best stories have fur, feathers, or scales. See you all next time.